Hey everyone, welcome to RevTrev NFL and it's fantasy football season. Mock drafts are happening, your drafts are right around the corner, and we're going to dive into the deep end. I know that everyone and their dog is talking about running backs and wide receivers, and that is absolutely important, as well as tight ends. We get it. That's very, very important for you to have a successful season. But don't forget about quarterback, because if you have the wrong quarterback, it can make or break your team. I'm telling you right now, a lot of teams are going to have great quarterbacks and effective ones. You got to figure out when to draft them, where to go. We're going to dive into the deep end. I cannot wait to talk to you about this. Let's go with the countdown, and then we'll get into this important fantasy football talk.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah.
Hey everyone, so glad you are here, because if you want to compete and contend and win a fantasy football championship, you need to talk and think about strategy. Listen, I have tons of success in my most important league. I've ran out of room for championships. I just got my 5th championship ring in the most. I'm telling you, the guys I'm playing with know their stuff, and so I'm very proud of these accomplishments. So, well, let's just wear a ring for the fun of it, right? So let's wear a ring for the fun of it. I won't put it on my wedding ring side, but so this, look at the difference between these two. Okay, so I should have got one of these when I got married. It's like, what kind of ring do you want? I want my fantasy football. Okay, sorry. All right, let's dive into this important topic, because most people are going to say it doesn't matter who you pick at quarterback. Where you draft one, it doesn't matter. Just get one at the very end of the draft and you'll be fine. No, that's just not true. It's just not true. And as you can see, I'm wearing my jersey of one of my favorite players, actually my favorite player of all time, Aaron Rodgers, who was a fantasy football legend. His MVP seasons, he was winning people leagues. And I absolutely love my Green Bay Packers, but I love the NFL and I love talking about fantasy football. So let's dive into the fantasy football draft strategy. Quarterback, when should you take one? Now, just a quick second before we dive into it, I've just joined a great website, great guys who have how do I say this? Have fantasy football content. I'm writing articles for them. I've just written 2 articles, and I'd love for you to get there and check that out. It is called Fantasy 15 Football. So go check it out. This is my latest article, Love versus Genty. It's a running back one, deep fantasy football dive. And then, of course, I wrote the one that I'm going to be talking about with you today. When should you draft a quarterback? So go check that out for sure, and we'll be diving into it. You can get even more analysis there. Okay, let's get into this question. Okay, so when should you draft a quarterback, and which quarterback should you target? Because there's a number of them that are very good. Now, many fantasy players and so-called experts say that this position doesn't matter, but that's just false. Okay, when should you draft a quarterback, though? That's why you're here. When? Well, when it comes to quarterback, and honestly, all positions of draft, you have to have multiple strategies to go. Looking into just saying one strategy. So many of you are going to go there and you're going to say, you're going to Google, you're going to go on YouTube and go, what's the best fantasy football strategy of 2026? Or, you know what I mean? And it's like, there's just one way to draft. There is not just one way to draft. There's multiple ways that you can win your league. So you don't have to know. Now, there's certain styles I'm going with this year because I think they're more effective. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But you can't just lock into one strategy because it will make you panic when your league that you're actually drafting in doesn't draft the way the default rankings go, and or the way that people, when you walk into mock drafts, and I think it's really important to mock draft, don't get me wrong. But here's the thing. When the mock drafts, you do the mock drafts, well, this is how it mock draft. You have to have multiple strategies to know what to do. So when drafting a quarterback, there's not just one way to do this to be successful, but there's multiple ways to be successful, okay? Now, the number one thing that every fantasy football expert and people like myself say is wait on quarterback. And that's not necessarily always a great strategy. You can wait on quarterback, but you can also miss on some of these league-defining quarterback studs in the process. But if it works and you wait on quarterback and you actually hit on one and he's super effective in those late rounds, of course it's going to be better. It's just like running back, finding a gem, and they call them league winners later on. So you build up your team, then you find a quarterback later. Okay, I get it. But what happens when you fail on that, right? So if it works, great. But it doesn't always, again, it's not just one strategy, wait on quarterback. Now, traditionally, I do wait on quarterback because people pick quarterbacks way too high, which I love because it pushes all those other wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs my way that I want. And they just want to have this great opportunity. But I got hosed last year, and I'll talk to you about that in just a second, by waiting on quarterback. I should have picked one earlier. Okay, so let's just say, for example, after his rookie campaign, Caleb Williams was drafted late in most leagues, but ended up as quarterback 6. That is incredible value. Now, if you draft Caleb Williams now, he got to number 6. Let's just say he progresses. Okay, as a Packers fan, it's hard for me to say that. What's he going to get to? Is he going to get to number 1? I highly doubt it. In year 3, he's going to get to number 1. Okay. Let's just say a realistic goal would be he would get to quarterback 4. Well, you have to draft Caleb as quarterback 4 to 7 anyway. So it's not really a big jump. If you know what I mean? It's still around the same range. Now, Drake May was the poster child of the 2025 wait on quarterback strategy because he finished as quarterback 2. That's, if you're going to wait on quarterback, that's who you're looking for, is a guy like that nobody thought was coming. Now, we can talk about Drake May. He was quarterback 2 last year, and he got better weapons this year with Dobbs and A.J. Brown. I mean, say what? So he got better. Like where Caleb, for example, he had a very good surrounding team. You got Adunez and Burden, which people are super high on this year, Loveland, but they lost DJ Moore. And that, so he didn't subtract. Like, you know, I mean, this, if you're looking at New England, they added better wide receivers, and he was quarterback number 2 last year. If you want to go with Caleb, and maybe, I mean, what's his ADP right now? Let me just look. So his ADP is end of round 4. Okay. So it goes number 1 guys being taken is Josh Allen. Then it goes Lamar Jackson and Drake Mays right after that. Caleb Williams is being taken as a 7th quarterback. Well, he was 6th last year, and a lot of quarterbacks were hurt. So there's a good chance where he'll drop. He won't be as high. Okay. But Drake May is one of those guys where you're sitting there watching him and you're going, say what? You know what I mean? So, and yes, and Luther Burden got injured as well. So that's something that we need to talk about. Okay. You need to talk about, because Luther Burden is a very, very good wide receiver. Caleb's now without him, but he'll be back sometime. I don't know how big his injury is. Oh, and I want to give a big shout out to my friend Stuart Dixon. He is a fantasy football legend himself, and he's saying that I'm preaching truth. Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's dive into this a little bit more. One redraft league that I'm in has 12 very knowledgeable and skilled fantasy football players in it, okay? And it's a 12-team 0.5 PPR league with just one starting quarterback. So obviously, if you're doing a super flex or a 2-quarterback league, things change a little bit with this because they're more valuable than you think. But I waited on quarterback and I drafted Jared Goff last year in the 10th round, okay? He ended the season as quarterback 8. So that strategy didn't really work for me because he was drafted I drafted him as the quarterback 14. He only went up to number 8, which is still an improvement, but it didn't move the needle enough for me to win. And then I struggled against teams that had those top 4 quarterbacks, and we'll be talking about that. But in my league, this same league, and I try to be in 14 to 20 leagues a year, okay? But this was a competitive one that I wanted to talk to you about because it's like realistic of what you could see and just hindsight 2020, right? So in my league, Drake May was drafted in the 12th round and then ended up as quarterback 2. He won a bunch of people a bunch of championships, right? When you hit on it, you look like a genius. When you miss, you can say, my bad, and then you have to scramble on waivers. And sometimes there's some waiver wire gems they want to do. But let's talk about what should you be expecting for your fantasy football quarterback expectations, okay? You should be aiming for a quarterback that ideally you'll want to draft who will get in the 375 to 400 plus range. If you don't think they're going to be 350 or to 400 plus, well, minimum 350, okay? Do not draft that quarterback. You want your quarterback to at least be averaging 20 plus points a game. And this is where people are like, well, I can just get this guy who gets 15. Well, the guy that your opponent has is already at 22. And so that's 7 points. And we know that some of those fantasy weeks comes down to the wire. So this is important. So let me just give you an example. Okay. I'm going to talk about the last 3 seasons. In 2025, no one got in that 375 to 400 plus range. Not one quarterback. Okay. Josh Allen just missed it by 1 point with 375. Drake May as quarterback 2 only had 358. The other 2 who squeaked into the 350 range was Stafford and Lawrence. So they both had 358 and 350. Okay. So Stafford and Drake May tied. Okay. Oh, and we'll talk about those quarterbacks in a second. In 2024, 4 quarterbacks hit that range. Lamar had 434 points. I still don't know how I didn't get MVP of the league. Josh Allen had 385. Burrows had Joe Burrow had 381. Mayfield had 381. Jaden Daniels was a quarterback 5 with 364 points. Okay. Then in 2023, Josh Allen had 410. Hurts had 375. And they were the top 2 quarterbacks. Dak Prescott was 3rd with 350. See the big differences there? And it's hard to get one of those guys that do that. But when you find one that's 350 or 375 plus, you have an advantage. There's also not only the wait on quarterback strategy, there's the elite quarterback early strat. Okay. Some people just want to get a solid quarterback and don't have to have the extra stress. So they'll just draft Allen or Lamar or Burrow and focus on the rest of your draft. There's value in that kind of strategy. When people say quarterback doesn't matter, remember that when you have Josh Allen, who gets, 380 plus fantasy points most years, and then someone else had Justin Herbert, who only had 299, there's a big discrepancy, right? So obviously health is the key. For example, Herbert, I just talked about, his O-line got banged up. I mean, he should have a better year this year, right? If he himself can stay healthy, if his O-line can stay healthy, he's in a good spot to be a guy who could be in the top 5. But health is key. So last year, drafting a quarterback early worked with Allen, but it failed with Lamar Jackson. I was in a league that had Lamar Jackson. He got hooped. Burrow got hurt. Daniels got hurt. And Jalen Hurts got hurt. 4 of the top 5 ADP quarterbacks got hurt. So here's a pro tip, okay? Experts suggest that you should not draft a second quarterback, but sometimes that is absolutely the greatest strategy you can do, especially if you land a stud at the end of the draft and you're able to trade your starting quarterback and upgrade your wide receiver, tight end, or running back position, okay? Now, let's just say everything goes wrong. You draft the wrong quarterback. There are still some guys that you can get on waiver wires, okay? I call them waiver wire wonders, all right? Waiver wire wonders, okay? Let me just bring this up here so you can see this a little bit better. Now, did Stafford or Trevor Lawrence get drafted in your league last year? They didn't in mine, okay? They didn't in mine. Okay, Stafford finished as quarterback 3, as we talked about. Trevor Lawrence was also picked off of waivers at the end of the season and had it ended at quarterback 4. While everyone is trying to land those running backs and wide receivers off of waivers, don't forget the quarterback. Okay, don't forget the quarterback to get off of waivers. So who should you draft this year? Now, that's really up to you. This is your team. You can listen to fantasy advice and you can look at a whole bunch of stuff. Make sure you see the eye test, think about their schemes they're running, who their coaches are, what their O-line is like, health-wise is huge. Okay, you got to think of a lot of these things. But Matthew Stafford is a guy that I would be targeting this year. Matthew Stafford, it's shocking to me how late he is going in draft still. His 2026 ADP right now is 118. He's going as quarterback 15. And he's still in the same offense and has 2 stud wide receivers in Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. They have the defense to keep the offense on the field more. Why are people not picking him? The other one is who a lot of people won championships with is Trevor Lawrence. He won people leagues. He's still getting drafted as quarterback 11. He was on fire last season. He was first overall draft pick in 2021 in the real NFL draft. So look at these league winning stats from last year. Week 15, okay? 44 points. He was quarterback 1. Week 16, which most people are in there. Actually, all these. Week 15 is playoffs, okay? This is playoffs. He was quarterback 1. Week 16 is week 2 of the playoffs. He had 31 points. He was quarterback 2 in the whole NFL. Okay, week 17, which is most people's championships, he had 24 points and he is quarterback 5. And then if you had anyone playing in week 18, he had 21 points. He was quarterback 3. The other guy that you need to consider is a guy like Kyler Murray. I don't like this pick very much, but if he wins the job, he's never had the weapons like this before. So if you wait on quarterback, why not take a flyer on a mobile quarterback who has Jefferson, Addison, and his 2 primary wide receivers. He has a vet tight end in Hawkinson. He has 2 capable running backs, especially Aaron Jones that can catch the ball in the backfield. And if you can land Kyler as your second quarterback, and then trade your starting quarterback, big name quarterback, and his ADP right now is number 17 in some leagues. So it's also possible that JJ McCarthy wins the job. Hopefully your draft isn't soon, so you'll know. It looks like it's Kyler. JJ's been struggling in training camp. So that's one that if you want to wait on quarterback, but my suggestion is if you go get Kyler Murray, get a second quarterback, okay? Because you can't have just have Kyler Murray and just hope for the best. The other one is Joe Burrow. And a lot of people are like, what? Well, when you have a healthy Joe Burrow, it's absolutely incredible. He's got top 3 potential. You can get him in like the 6th round, and think of that you've heard of his wide receivers, right? And Chase T. Higgins, you got Chase Brown coming to the backfield, and you can land 5 great players and then get Burrow in the 5th round. That could be a league-winning formula. So let me know on your socials how your draft works out. You got this. I want to encourage you, do the research, mock draft a lot, hit the waiver wire when the season starts, and whatever you do, don't forget the eye test. Okay, let's dive into a couple conversations, okay? A couple conversations. So Go Pack Go says Bears are thin at wide receiver depth, in my opinion. I mean, if Burton's out, then they are a little bit weaker. But injuries is massive, right? So like think about a guy like Jordan Love. He had 5 good wide receivers last year. They weren't great. They were good, right? Didn't matter who was open. Just throw them the ball. He was on pace to have the same numbers as Caleb Williams last year, but it got injured and missed 2 games. So something to remember, maybe Jordan Love's the guy that you wait on. Now, this year, he's lost Dobbs and Wicks, but they gave contract extensions to Watson and Reed. And then Golden's got to have a better year this year. I don't know how much better, but if they don't, they're going to struggle. And if their O-line can handle up, that'd be great. But Tyrod Taylor is the second quarterback for the Pack. If Jordan Love gets hurt, you don't want any of those wide receivers. In fact, I don't think I'm going to have any of these Packers wide receivers on my team, but that's the thing. The big question is, can Joe Burrow stay healthy? That's a good question. Can he stay healthy? I say, yes, he can. Yes, he can. But with a guy like Joe who's had injury issues, definitely pick up a quarterback late in the draft and just stash him on the bench. Okay, my friend Trevor's here. You may laugh at this one, but I go Brissett. Go Brissett stats from last year. He was a top 4 guy for weeks. You know what? That's a great one. See, those are the little gems. Those are the things you can get. Brissett is not getting drafted in 1 quarterback leagues. He is not getting drafted. And with all the videos of Cardinals wide receivers dropping balls right now, nobody's going to draft him. So that would be a guy that I would pick up as a second quarterback and just see if he hits. But yeah, it's decent. Yeah, Go Pack Go. I mean, the wide receivers on the back end aren't really anything to write home about fantasy wise, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, Carson Beck could take over at quarterback for the Cards. That's possible, but I mean, those are shots in the dark, right? We want to go after guys like you want to go after the players like, let's go. Where did I put the? Okay, so right now ADP is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Drake May, Joe Burrow, and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is 5th right now at ADP, but here's the thing. They just added Stephon Diggs as well. So if Daniels can stay healthy, he's definitely got a shot to get there, but he's already being drafted as the number 5 quarterback. Jalen Hurts is 6, Caleb 7, Dak Prescott's 8, Justin Herbert's 9, Jackson Dart. Wow. I mean, he has some big 20-point weeks. Is 10. Lawrence is 11. Patrick Mahomes is 12. Purdy is 13. Bo Nix is 14. Matthew Stafford's being drafted as quarterback 15. Jared Goff 16. Kyler Murray 17. Baker Mayfield's 18. Tyler Stroud's 19. And Jordan Love is at 20. At 20. So there's some gems in there in the 10 to 20 range that you can consider. So this has been my video. So glad that you're here. Again, if you want to compete and contend and win a championship, make sure you think about this. And man, I hope you win your draft. I hope that you compete and contend and win a championship. Let me know what your team looks like in the comments. I'd appreciate it. And of course, always go Pack Go.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah.